Folks, Street Fighter 6 isn't coming out until next year, but you wouldn't know it by some of the things that we read online. People have some takes. They have some opinions. I'm seeing people out there like, yo, Kimberly is overpowered. Kimberly nerfs when? Ken buffs when? This guy sucks? I don't know. Everyone has a lot to say about the balance of this game that's not even out, but this is pretty normal for fighting games. I think a lot of the most common questions that people have when a game comes out is, who's the best character? Who's the worst character? Who should I play if I want to win? And it turns out we're not always right with those assessments. Sometimes a character that everyone thinks is really powerful ends up being not so good, and vice versa. Sometimes a character feels weak, but over time, as players get good with them, it turns out they actually have some sauce after all. So today, we're going to be looking into a list of characters where the FGC, my fellow people in the fighting game community, we all got it wrong. We all thought that a character was good and they turn out bad, or vice versa. So we're going to be running through a list here, and just to be clear, these are characters who did not get patched to become good or bad. They simply were discovered more. The more we played, the more we realized how good the character actually is. They weren't just becoming good by being touched by the developers. So yeah, that's the plan, guys, for the list. But before we get into it, it would really help me out if you could hit the like button. It seriously makes a huge difference and helps my videos get shown to more people. And in case you missed the announcements, you should join my Discord server. The Discord server is now public. The link is in the description. Just click the link and you can join the server. You can hang out. We do matchmaking in there if you want to find people to run matches with, or if you just want to chat. And if you want to take part in our monthly tournaments, we have one this Friday. Fightcade Frenzy is this Friday. It's going to be a mystery game tournament. And if you want to play in it, we actually have a 7-day free trial that you can use to get into our paid tournaments. So you can do that right now, and then, the tournament's less than 7 days away, so you can play in it. So yeah, do that. But with that, how about we get into the list, guys? Let's talk about some characters that the community got wrong. Alright, so for our first character here, this is a character that everyone thought was not that good, but ended up being a major problem. And a lot of you are not going to believe this, considering the reputation this character has now. Elena was thought to be not very good in Ultra Street Fighter 4 for a few months. After the game came out, it was believed that Elena really just didn't have that much going for her. So for those of you who have kind of paid attention to the metagame of Ultra Street Fighter 4, after the game came out, Elena eventually became known as one of the most powerful characters in the game. Most would consider her top 3. Evo top 8. The last year that Ultra Street Fighter 4 was run at EVO, there were a lot of Elenas. There were a lot of people running Pocket Elena as well, switching to her to handle certain matchups that might be difficult for the regular characters. So she has a lot of powerful things. Her sweep, her sliding sweep, is very long range and very useful. She's got a lot of good overheads. She can combo off her overheads. She can combo off her crouching light kick low as well. She has a lot of really good links. And, of course, she has healing. Healing Ultra, very annoying. It regains some of her health, and health is what gives you Ultra. Getting hit contributes to your Ultra meter, so she's giving herself more future Ultras by getting hit, and she can oftentimes get 2 or 3 Ultras easily in one match. So Elena, crazy powerful character, the villain of Ultra Street Fighter 4, I think most people would say. But would you believe that a group of top Japanese players, including Daigo, Tokido, Momochi, and Bonchan, they collaborated on a tier list, and they put Elena bottom tier. This was July 2014, so this was at least a few months after Ultra came out, and they considered Elena to be among the weakest characters in the game. I'll link the article that this is from down in the description because it's a very interesting read. They talk a lot about their opinions on the different characters, and they really felt that Elena, especially since she got kind of emergency nerfed in patch 1.01 shortly after the game came out, they took away some of her stuff, like her really absurd hitbox, and they made her slide weaker and stuff, so they really felt that Elena was not good, and they were not the only ones. This is a tier list from Alion, a top French player with some EVO top 8s under his belt, and this was back when we did the whole well-rounded versus has faults x-axis. No one really does this anymore, but I always found it kind of fun. And yeah, Elena, lower half of the cast, has faults. Of course, now most people consider this a character without really any problems at all. She handles pretty much every matchup in the game pretty well, and she has some matchups that she completely shuts out. So, yeah, people were underestimating Elena. This is another tier list. This was in a Japanese magazine. This is from Nemo, who also, you know, a historically really amazing Street Fighter player. I know this is in Japanese, but S tier we got Yun, Ibuki, Evil Ryu. A tier Poison Zangief. B tier everyone else. So, you know, everyone else except for some really bad characters like DJ and Dan who were in C tier. So, you know, B tier for Elena, you know, it's not like he's saying she's bottom tier or anything, but compared to what people think of the character now, yeah, it's crazy. And you can look at other people like Daigo listed his top 10 characters in the game. Elena didn't make the list, so people were really, really sleeping on this character. And why was that? I think it's a little bit hard to say. I think definitely people overreact to nerfs. So Elena did get a bunch of nerfs in the 1.01 patch. So I think people probably ran with that and were like, well, she lost a lot of stuff, so she must be bad now. But it turns out that she was completely broken before the nerfs. And now she's just like really, really good after the nerfs. And this is definitely the type of character who isn't like super explosive. She's not doing like big 50% damage combos to you. So I can imagine people not being that excited by the character. But just the way that she controls neutral, her ability to be super, super safe, her ability to lame it out, and of course to regenerate life with healing is just pretty cheap, man. Pretty strong character, perhaps #1 in the game. But people were wrong about how good she was when Ultra was new. All right, next up, we're going to be talking about a character that everyone thought was good and turned out to be not so good. And that's going to be Goku Black from Dragon Ball FighterZ. So Goku Black, you know, when this game first came out, a lot of you guys might not remember. It's been a long time since 2018. But Goku Black was really thought to be extremely powerful and one of the early contenders for top tier when the game first came out, okay? I'm gonna expose myself on this one. I'm man enough to admit that in a really old video, I put Goku Black 4th best in the game, top 5, Goku Black top 5, but I'm not the only one. Here's the Sonic Fox tier list from February 2018. And, yeah, you know, not like the tippest of the top tier, but Goku Black pretty far up there. And then as well, we've got Leffen, Big Lef. Big Lef also put, Goku Black really, really high up there, you know, just below, like, Android 16, Cell, Adult Gohan. One of the best in the game. And Brain Dead, too, on the Brain Dead versus Hard to Master X scale. I'm sorry, my stream is cutting it off a little bit, but Goku Black, a lot of people really thought was top tier. But if you guys have paid attention to the competitive history of the game, you may realize that pretty quickly people started to figure out that maybe Goku Black wasn't all that. You know, within about a year of the game coming out, people were putting him low tier, bottom tier even, despite not really receiving any notable nerfs. And actually, he's been buffed a bunch of times throughout the game's history, but it's never really been enough to see him get above like low mid-ish. I think that's around where most people have him now. But for a while, he was considered very bad. So why did we all think he was so good? I think he's got a lot of stuff that just appears good. You know, he's got like half-screen normals, the 2H of the gods. He's got like this auto combo, has really, really long range as well. And, you know, obviously he's got all the normal Goku stuff. He's got a beam. He's got a full screen command throw. So, I mean, you know, how are you going to block this character? You got to guess between whether you're going to get hit by a beam or whether you're going to get hit by an unblockable command throw. But it turns out that that actually is like his biggest problem, is that he is pretty easy to defend against. You know, when the game was new, people were a lot more likely to get hit by reactable things. So like towards plus medium in this game is an overhead, but most people are really good at reacting to that these days. And then, you know, Dragon Rush, the throw equivalent in this game, yes, people get hit by it, but in general, it's more reactable than I think people gave it credit for when the game was new. And other than that, the character doesn't have too much mix going. Yes, he does have this command throw, but it is very slow. It is reactable, and you don't even get very much off it. You know, the combo is going to be scaled, and it's not really going to give you too much if you land it. So in general, the character does do, you know, a solid job of controlling neutral, but he just doesn't get that much reward off of things, and it's very hard for him to open up a player with good defense. And as the game went on, especially with people playing offline, you know, things that might be hard to block online It turns out people in offline tournaments had a much easier job blocking them, and it made the character a little bit worse. But he did always have a beam assist, so that was always good, but not enough to let him see much play. Most people were playing Super Saiyan Goku over him, despite the fact that Super Saiyan Goku doesn't have the 2H of the gods or some of the other things that Goku Black has. The character was just more reliable in most people's eyes than Goku Black, at least for a lot of the game until they nerfed the crap out of Super Saiyan Goku. But we're not talking about buffs and nerfs. We're talking about characters who people figured out over time to be not as good as they thought at first, and I think Goku Black fits the bill perfectly. Alright, next up we are moving on to Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and there's a character in this game who was generally considered very bad, one of the worst in the game, and then ended up winning EVO. And that's Chun Li. So Chun Li is a character that really not very many people at all were experimenting with or putting time into this character when Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 came out. Here's a tier list from Filipino Champ, who is one of the top players in this game. You can see Chun Li is way down there with the real stinkers like She-Hulk and Tron. Here's another one from Master CJ, who was a pretty notable player at the time. You can see Chun, again, way down here. And then I really like this write-up from Justin Wong that was listed on Event Hubs, where he put Chun-Li in C+. You know, it's not the worst grade. There's some characters down here in C- and D, but he did put her in the bottom 10. And some of the reasons for why he considered her not that good are very hard execution. That's an important one. We'll talk about that later. Not a lot of damage without the use of assists. Also true. And then X Factor is hard to control because obviously she's a really fast character, and then when she's in X Factor, she just gets like out of control fast. So I think generally, you know, what Justin's saying here is that, yeah, like she's hard to use and she doesn't do that much damage. She doesn't really get that much reward off of hits compared to other characters who just kill you. But there was a player named Ryan LV who used Chun Li and won EVO with Chun Li. And the way that he did this was really playing Chun Li in a way that played around her faults. So like, yes, Chun Li is very hard to play, but if you just practice for years and years, which is what Ryan LV did, and get your execution, you know, at some point, any character is achievable if you have years to grind. And then yes, Chun Li does do very, very poor damage. That is definitely true. But if you play a team that doesn't care about damage, then it's fine. Who cares? So Ryan LV on his team, he played Chun Li, Morrigan, Phoenix. And if you guys don't know how Phoenix works, basically your goal is to get to 5 meters as quickly as possible. And then once you do, when Phoenix dies with 5 meters available, she turns into Dark Phoenix, who is like the most broken character in the game. All her attacks send out projectiles. She does insane damage. And generally you win the game if you activate Dark Phoenix, at least most of the time. So yes, it's true that Chun Li does not do very much damage at all. But like, who cares about damage if you're building meter? You know, that's the main goal. Her combos can do like a lot of hits with stuff like lightning legs and her spinning bird kick. You know, she can do a ton of hits, build up a ton of meter, and she can also stall very effectively. You can see she's one of the few characters in the game with a triple jump. So she can stall, and she can call this assist. So this Morrigan assist actually builds you meter. You can see it builds quite a chunk, like nearly a half bar, maybe like a third of a bar. So you can simply triple jump around, call this assist, be as slippery and hard to catch as possible, and build up a ton of meter so that you're pretty much guaranteed to get Dark Phoenix, and usually you'll win off that. So here's an example of Ryan LV playing. This was EVO Grand Finals 2017, and you can see Chun is chilling. She's simply double jumping, triple jumping around, whiffing special moves, calling that Morrigan assist, trying to build up a bunch of meter. There's not a lot of urgency here to go in. And you can see Chris G is having to spend meter on Super just to try to kind of take Chun Li out, whereas Chun Li is just building meters up. She's at 3 meters already. Sorry, it's kind of hidden behind my head, but she just hit 3, and pretty soon she's going to hit 4, 5, and then Dark Phoenix is going to come in and be a major problem. And yeah, there's a lot of games where Ryan LV wins without having to activate Phoenix. You know, he just kills the opponent because he's so good with Chun and Morrigan. But, you know, sometimes it goes bad. Dark Phoenix has to come in, and this is kind of what that looks like. You know, the character just activates X Factor, and oh my god, the damage! It hurts me to watch the damage and the mix with the teleport. So, yeah, Dark Phoenix definitely carried the team, but Chun was an incredibly good enabler for this playstyle. So I definitely don't think Chun Li is the type of character where it's like, okay, everyone thought she was bad, but it turns out she's top tier, right? Chun Li's not top tier. Most people would probably consider her like mid, upper mid, but on Ryan LV's team, she's top tier. So I think that goes to show you that even if there's a character who might seem not that good, like in the general case, they're not good in a lot of situations, but in some situations, they might be incredibly good. You know, if you build a team around it, or if the meta changes in such a way that the character has a lot of good matchups, or if you just develop a new strategy for a character that hasn't been seen before, you might be able to make them work and even win EVO with a character that everyone else is sleeping on. So it's possible. We're going to stay in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 for a second, and we're going to talk about the opposite here. This is going to be a character that everyone thought was amazing, and then they ended up not really being anything to write home about, and that is Wesker. So Wesker was considered very strong in the original Marvel 3. So, you know, he's pretty annoying. He's got these gunshots. He can gunshot OTG, hit you off the ground with it as well. He can be lame, but he can also, you know, go in and do very high damage combos and self OTG. So that's a pretty powerful tactic to have. So Wesker won EVO for vanilla Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And then when Ultimate Marvel 3 came out, everyone thought, okay, surely they're going to nerf Wesker, right? Because he's considered one of the best characters. He just won EVO. They're definitely going to nerf this guy, right? But they actually kind of buffed him. So in Ultimate, they gave him this ability to take off his glasses. So now when he does his level 1 super, you can see for the rest of the match, he's going to have no glasses on. And this does a few things. It's basically equivalent to level 1 X Factor. He basically gets a level 1 X Factor boost in his damage and speed just by doing a level 1 super. So naturally people freaked out. They were like, why would you take a character that we all hate already? We're already getting shot to death by this character and hating it. Why would you give him this new thing that, you know, potentially makes him even stronger than he was before? So people were mad. There was much wailing and gnashing of teeth. You know, I found this old thread on Reddit. This is really old, and man, people were throwing hands about Wesker. One guy said, everyone's saying Wesker is overpowered, hasn't figured out how to beat him. Instead of complaining to Capcom, figure out what to do. And knowing what we know now, maybe this guy was onto something. I don't know. But a lot of people were definitely mad. This guy's like, there were 5 Weskers in top 8. Not a single Felicia or Morrigan. Which, of course, now we know Morrigan is potentially the best character in Ultimate. So that's kind of funny to look back at. And he also says some of the best players use Wesker because he has more tools than just about any other character. And shout out to Pat the Flip. Pat the Flip is a great guy. He's a good player in a lot of games, and he does a lot of great work for the FGC. But he was maybe a little bit off the mark 11 years ago when he said some things never change. You know, Cable was top tier in the beginning of Marvel 2, and he's been top tier ever since it came out. That's going to be the same with Wesker. Wesker's going to be top tier for the entire lifetime of Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Let's find out. For example, here's a tier list from SackTap, who got top 3 at Combo Breaker this year. Very good player. Might be downplaying his own main, Hagar, but, you know, we got Wesker. He's a contender. So, you know, maybe like a mid-tier, barely viable. What are we supposed to take from this? But definitely a far cry from the top tier that many people considered him when the game was new. And here's Justin Wong's new tier list. This tier list template's horrible. You can't even see the characters, but that's Wesker, in case you were wondering. He's here with some other characters like, you know, Taskmaster, Beautiful Joe, Trish. These are solid characters, but, you know, they're definitely not blowing anyone's doors off lately in Marvel 3. And would you believe Wesker won EVO for vanilla Marvel vs. Capcom 3, but he has never top 8'd EVO ever. No top 8 team in EVO for the entire lifespan that this game was run as a main game. No one in top 8 played Wesker. Which is kind of insane considering, you know, we were just seeing those Reddit posts where people are like, Wesker's gonna be top tier for the whole lifespan of this game. He's got too much. He's got all the tools. So listen, I'm not trying to make fun of anybody if they thought Wesker was top tier. You know, we just talked about Goku Black. I thought Goku Black was top tier as hell, and he is not that good at all. So, you know, we're all wrong about things sometimes, but I think this goes as like a good lesson that the way games are played can change a lot. So, like, You know, back when Ultimate Marvel first came out, people were not doing TAC infinites. People were not doing any of those degen strategies like we saw with Ryan LV. Like, the game itself is like almost completely different now. People are really doing broken stuff. They're touch of deathing off like almost every hit. And Wesker kind of has a hard time with that, and he doesn't have like an air dash. He doesn't have any like really degenerate mix going for him. So he is a good character. He does have a lot of tools. He's probably above average, but he's definitely not top tier because he's just too fair. He's too fair. No one's picking him at Evo. So yeah, Wesker. I really, really love how angry people were about this glasses buff, but it ended up not being enough to make him that viable. Alright, well, let's go to some Guilty Gear Strive. For our last character of the video, we're going to talk about a character who I was actually right about this one, okay? You guys are going to have to forgive me. It's rare that I get to pull out and I told you so, and I get to say I was right about something, and all my viewers and commenters were wrong. But I was right about Nagoriyuki, okay? So obviously, if you guys pay attention to this game at all, you probably know that Nagoriyuki is considered top tier. Most people would consider him top 3, one of the best characters in the game, and it's basically been that way for a really long time at this point. This character has pretty much always been a problem since very early on. But when the game was brand new, for the first like couple weeks or so, everyone was telling me that Nagoriyuki sucked, and that was for one reason, which is the blood gauge. So if you look at that little gauge over there above his super gauge, over at the bottom of the screen there, that's the blood gauge. And whenever he does special moves, the blood gauge is going to increase. And if you do too many and it fills up all the way, you go into blood rage mode, which means he loses access to all his special moves, and also his health drains very quickly while he's in blood rage. So you don't want to do that. It's a bad situation. So everyone saw this and they thought, okay, this character, you like can barely do anything. Look, that's like 1 special move, 2 special moves, 3, and then on the 4th one, we're gonna go into blood rage. And that's not very many special moves, man. 4 special moves, and you kind of lose the round a lot of times if you go into blood rage. Seems like a pretty big ask, and a lot of people were not happy with this. They said, I wanted to play Nagoriyuki, but they made him terrible. They made it so that it punishes you for playing the game, right? So I did a video a really long time ago, you know, a few pounds heavier. I did this video. Nagoriyuki is much stronger than you think, and I was basically talking about why I don't really think the character needed buffs. I thought that he was actually, you know, pretty good, at least better than people were giving him credit for. And some of the commenters were not pleased. Here's some choice comments that I grabbed from this video. He's minus on breathing, slow anti-airs, super's minus 3 hours on block. Nago with no blood rage mechanic would be around the same level as the best characters in the game. Of course, it turns out that he's one of the best characters in the game, even with blood rage, but still, he's horrible. He needs a buff. Stop telling everyone he's good. There's 14 other characters, most of whom are just better than him. Buff Nago. Nago needs a dash. Yeah, I didn't mention he can't do a normal ground dash because he doesn't need it because his moves hit half screen. He doesn't need it. The negatives outweigh the positives. If you're not really, really good, you probably would do better with another character. So if you watch any Guilty Gear Strive tournaments, tell me if that's still true. So, you know, a few reasons why Nago ended up being so much better than I think nearly anyone expected. He even ended up being better than I expected, even though I made that video saying that I thought he was pretty good. It turns out he's better than pretty good. He's broken. And there's a few reasons for that. One is, it doesn't matter that much if you're going to go into blood rage if you just kill the opponent, you know? Who cares if you go into blood rage if they're just dead? And he's really, really good at killing the opponent. He's one of the most damaging characters. He also has this bite command throw, which recovers all his blood rage, and I think people definitely underestimated how powerful this throw was going to be. Because, yes, it is true, you know, they can just jump out of it and punish it, although you can make it safe with an RC, so that's really important. But the fact that his special moves are so broken, so many of his special moves leave you, like, right next to the opponent in perfect position to go for this. The opponent's gonna be scared, they're gonna want to block, because getting hit by any move means they're gonna, like, lose their entire life bar. So it's a very threatening command throw, and you know, if you reset your blood gauge, it's party time. You can just go nuts and start like warping around and going crazy. So Yeah, the command throw is good. And something else that I think a lot of people just didn't know, they didn't play the character, so they didn't know that this was a mechanic, is that blood actually buffs Nago as well. So it's a limiting aspect on him to prevent him from using his special moves too much, but it also increases the power of a lot of his moves. Most notably, moves like his crouching slash is a lot better when he has high blood, and his standing heavy slash is probably the most notable. This thing is like nearly full screen if you've got level 3 blood, but then once you drain down to level 1 blood, it becomes much, much shorter range. So you are rewarded for getting that blood level up and keeping it at a certain level. So you can watch the really good Nagoriyuki players. They're all really amazing at managing this blood gauge. They almost never go into blood rage, at least in situations where, you know, they're going to get killed for doing it. So yeah, the character ended up being really good, and you can look at literally any tier list now. For example, here's Diaphone's tier list. Nagoriyuki, number 2 in the game. I think most people think that he's somewhere around here. You know, they've patched the game a lot, but Nagoriyuki still remains one of the strongest in the game after every patch. They haven't done anything to knock him off his podium just yet. So yeah, guys, let me tell you, it feels good, man. It's a rare feeling. It's rare. I'm so confident and so wrong all the time that it's rare that I get to be the one who knew something that no one else did. But I knew that Nago was going to be good, guys. I knew it all along. Right? Right? Chat, let me know down in the comments. Did you know, or were you one of the people that thought Nago sucked? And let me know about all the other characters on the list. Were there any in here that you didn't know about? I always love to hear when people point out that I showed them something they didn't know about fighting games before. That's basically my goal with the channel. I want to entertain you guys by showing you guys some stuff that you might not know about in this wonderful genre that I love to play so much. And let me know if there's any other characters that you think would belong on a future list. Maybe I'll run it back. Do another video like this for characters that everybody got wrong. So let me know down in the comments, and thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everybody.